गिरि यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंदन व्रज जनरंदन यमुना तीरवनचरी यमुना तीरवनचरी हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव गुरु हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल। प्यारे नाम संकीर्तन की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद जी की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवत महापुराण की जय। उपस्थित भक्तवृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगण रघुनाथन्वितं तं सजीवं साधवतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगण ललिता श्रीजगन्नाथं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपीश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। अष्टपदे कृष्णाभिष्टभूतले श्रीमते उक्तेदान्त स्वामिनित्य नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपात् वन्दे श्रीगुरुं तारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 and chapter is Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 chapter 8, sorry, chapter 9 verses starting from 38 onwards. Hare Krishna. So before we start, before we dive into today's verses, let's all glorify Srimad Bhagavatam because this Srimad Bhagavatam is a Vangvay Swarup of Lord Sri Krishna. As Bhagavad Gita is non-different from the Lord because the Bhagavad Gita emanated from the lips of the Lord. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam is also very dear to the Lord because it is emanated from Lord Vasudev, who is himself the incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna. And that same Srimad Bhagavatam, when Shukdev Goswami heard, who was into when that same Srimad Bhagavatam, which was heard by Shukdev Goswami, he was into impersonal meditation, but he left that impersonal meditation and he went to the Vasudev and became a student. to hear and glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam. And as Arjun heard the Bhagavad Gita from Lord Sri Krishna, so similarly, the grandson of Arjun, Parikshit Maharaj, heard this Srimad Bhagavatam from the lotus lips of Shukdev Goswami, who is a very well-known saint and in the disciplic succession, and from him he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam. Not only that, it has been said in the one of the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Ayurharati Vaipumsam Nashtancha Yanasau Tasyarth Yachanonita Uttama Shloka Vartaya, that every day as the sun rises and sets, it takes away the life or one day away from the conditioned souls. Ayur Harati Vaipumsam Udyan Ashtancha Yanasau. With the sunrise and sunset, we are getting one day closer to death. Ayur Harati Vaipumsam Udyan Ashtancha Yanasau. Tasya Arte Yachanonita Uttama Shloka Vartaya. So everybody is moving closer to death, but out of this people, those people who are engaged in hearing and chanting of the Supreme Lord, they they are protected from being slaughtered, or they are being protected from death. How? Because tasya artha yashunanita uttama shloka varta. Because they are engaged in the katha and pastimes of uttama shlok. What do you mean by uttama shlok? Uttama shloka is the one that whose glorification we do with very selected verses, choicest verses. That's why the Lord is known as Uttama Shloka. And another meaning is whatever verses we compose to glorify the Supreme Lord, that is also known as Uttama Shloka. So now the question will rise that Prabhu, we are also uh, getting old day by day, and we are performing devotional service. And the persons who are outside in the material world, who are engaged in their sense gratification, they are also getting old. They are also, having all the old symptoms. So how can we will be protected from death? So our Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice analogy to understand this. That Srila Prabhupada says that sometimes a cat takes hold of rat and keeps in her mouth, catches the neck of the rat through her mouth, cat. So what will be the conclusion for that? The cat is going to eat the rat. The cat is going to finish off the rat. But when that same cat is holding with her mouth a kitten, a small baby cat, then what will be the conclusion, or what will be the final destination of that cat? So the final destination or final conclusion of that cat carrying a kitten in her mouth is that the cat will be carrying the kitten to a safer place. So this is the difference. So what we can learn from here is that although the people who are engaged into their sense gratification, they are like the rat in the mouth of cat. So soon they will be finished or they will meet the death. But for those devotees who are engaged in the service of the Lord takes special care. And not only that, like the cat carries the kitten to a safer place, or similarly, although we will meet the death, but after the death, we will be we will go back home, back to Godhead. So in that way, the Lord will also take us to the safer place, and that is the abode of the Lord. That is the Goloka Vrindavan. So this is the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we come and chant Srimad Bhagavatam and hear about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of Srimad Bhagavatam, the name, form, qualities, and pastimes, that will nourish us, because outside in the outside world, uh, we are being exploited or we have been cheated. But when we come in the association of devotees and when we hear together So what happens? We get that nourishment, and that nourishment helps us to remain focused in our path of Krishna consciousness, in the path of devotional service, and progress further. So we will read this today's verse, and then we will discuss upon this. So we are reading from verse 38. Sri Shukha Uvacha Sampradishyaiva Jananam Parameshtinam Pasyatastasya Tadrupam Atmano Nyarunadhari. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Anybody would like to read?
Yes, Prabhu. Sukdev Goswami said to Maharaj Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Hari, after being seen in his transcendental form, instructing Brahmaji, the leader of the living entities, disappeared. In this verse, it is clearly mentioned that the Lord is Ajan, or the Supreme Person, and that he was showing his transcendental form, Atmano Rupam, to Brahmaji while instructing him in the summarization of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 verses. He is the Ajna, or the Supreme Person amongst Jananam, all persons. All living entities are individual persons, and amongst all such persons, Lord Hari is supreme, as confirmed in the Shruti mantra, Nityo Nityanam Chetasa Chetanam. So there is no place for impersonal features in the transcendental world, as there are impersonal features in the material world. Whenever there is a chetana or knowledge, the personal features comes in. In the spiritual world, everything is full of knowledge, and therefore everything in the transcendental world, the land, the water, the tree, the mountain, the river, the man, the animal, the bird, everything is of the same quality, namely Chetana. And therefore everything there is individual and personal. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us this information as the supreme Vedic literature, and it was personally instructed by the Supreme Personality of the Godhead to Brahmaji so that the leader of the living entities might broadcast the message to all the universe in order to teach the supreme knowledge of Bhakti Yoga. Brahmaji, in his turn, instructed Narad, his beloved son, the same message of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Narad, in his turn, taught the same to Vyasdev, who again taught it to Sukdev Goswami. Through Sukdev Goswami's grace and by the mercy of Maharaj Parikshit, we are all given Srimad Bhagavatam perpetually to learn the science of the absolute personality of the Godhead, Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Brody. Hare Krishna. So here, Sukdev Goswami explains this to Maharaj Parikshit that how Lord Brahmaji has received his transcendental knowledge from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We also hear about this in the first canto, first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is been mentioned, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kaviye Muyantiya Suraya. That the Lord Krishna, Vishnu, or Narayan, he instructed this imperishable science of yoga to Brahmaji. And he downloaded the knowledge of these Vedas in the heart of Brahmaji. That's why it has been said, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kaviye. So in this way, Lord Krishna instructs Brahmaji, who is the leader of all the living entities, because he is also the in charge of the secondary creator, and which is one of the subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam also. So he is also and he is the Prajapati. He is the Pitamaha of all the living entities. And then through his different sons, he tries to expand the population all over. And then through his different sons, he gives this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, of Krishna consciousness to all the living entities through his different sons like Narada, uh, Kashyap, and then Kardam Muni. So in this way, Manu and all. So in this way, Lord Brahma Uh, as we see in the Bhagavad Gita, also in the fourth chapter, it has been said that Imam Vivaswata Yogam Proktavanaham Abhyayam uh, Imam Vivaswate Yogam Proktavan Maham Avyayam. Uh, so there is a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita, fourth chapter, first verse, where the Lord says that first this imperishable science of yoga I instructed to the sun god, then sun god instructed to Ishvaku, and Ishvaku instructed to the father of mankind, Manu. So in this way, this knowledge comes from the disciplic succession. So the Lord instructs this knowledge. So as the Bhagavad Gita's knowledge, it was very in the beginning. It was explained to the sun god US1. Similarly, this knowledge of Krishna consciousness also, it was first explained by Lord Krishna to Lord Brahmaji, and then Brahmaji instructed to Narada, and Narada instructed to Vyasdevji, and Vyasdevji instructed to Sukdev Goswami, and Sukdev Goswami instructed to Parikshit Maharaj, and the Suta Goswami, who was also assembled in that assembly. And then that same knowledge, Suta Goswami explained it to the sages of Naimisharanya, who were doing the yajna for the benefit and welfare of the age of Kali Yuga. And from there, this knowledge, these different sages acquired and they distributed it further. So this is the glory of the transcendental knowledge. So that's why this Raja Rishi, or we say the Rishi or Muni, so there is a very nice meaning of this word Muni. So His Holiness Radha Govind Swami Maharaj explains that Muni is known as to a person who remains quiet, who remains in silence. जो मौन रहते हैं उनको मुनि कहते हैं. But it doesn't mean that we should not speak anything and remain silence all the time. But when we speak something, if we are trying to speak some nonsense, then it is better to be quiet. So that's why these munis, they remain quiet all the time. But whenever they get chance to speak about the Krishna, then they will speak. Otherwise, they will remain mourn. So this is the importance of the word Muni. So it is not just to remain silent all the time, but whenever we get chance, we should speak about the Lord and His devotees. And Kapil Dev also instructs the same thing to Mata Dehuti in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Samvito Bhavanti Ritkarnayat Rasayana Katha Tad Joshana Dasa Apavargavan Manasi Shraddha Ratir Bhaktir Anugramishati. So in the association of devotees, Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Samvito, the devotees chant about my chivalry qualities. And with that ras katha, with that the nectar of the katha, their bhakti the starts automatically further. It progresses further. Here, the Supreme Lord is explain is addressed with the verse like Ajanaha. Ajana means that who is unborn. Aja is also one of the name of the Supreme Lord. Ajanaha. And Aja means that who cannot be conquered. That's why he is also known as Ajita. So similarly, in this way, the Lord is been addressed here by Srila Sukdev Goswami in different ways. And not only that, it is also been explained that we are the we are having our senses, but Lord Sri Krishna is our the master of the senses. That's why he is known as the Rishikesha or the master of the senses. So that's why it is better to serve the Lord of the senses instead of serving our own senses. Because the more we do sense gratification, it is like putting oil in the fire. The more it will, it will not extinguish. It will go further and further. But when we serve the Lord, who is the Rishikesha, who is our master of the senses, then what happens? Our senses get satisfied. That's why this today's motivational speakers they talk about the mind and all, and other things. But from where they are getting this knowledge? They are getting this knowledge from Bhagavad Gita. They are getting this knowledge from Srimad Bhagavatam. Because this is our Vedic culture. There is a knowledge of everything, each and every field. But since we are not reading it, Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, or we are not hearing it properly, that's why we are not able to take essence from the scriptures, and we are going to, to the outside world for some motivation, for some guidance. But actually, our Gurudevs, or our spiritual masters, and our acharyas have done so much work for us so that we can remain in this path of devotion and progress further. So that's why the importance of Bhakti Yoga is explained here. And Narad Muni also transmits this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyasdev, that has been also mentioned in this purport by Srila Prabhupada. So, and Srila Prabhupada also explains that through the grace of Shukdev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, that we have received the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, what we can learn from this is that we should always have a gratitude. We should have a attitude of gratitude to these acharyas and to Lord Sri Krishna, who have given us this knowledge so that we can go back home, back to Godhead in this very lifetime. So this is what Parikshit Maharaj has understood here from these verses. Further, Shukdev Goswami speaks in the next verse, which is verse number 39. Antarhitendriyarthaya haraye hitanjalihi sarvabhutamayo vishvam sasarjedam sa purvavad. Translation and purport, Shila Prabhupada, Jai Shila Prabhupada.
Hare
I'll
Krishna.
read.
Hare Prabhuji.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. On the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of devotees, Brahma, with folded hands, began to recreate the universe, full with living entities as it was previously. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the subject for fulfilling the senses of all living entities, illusioned by the glaring reflection of the external energy. The living entities worship the senses instead of engaging them properly in fulfilling the desires of the Supreme. In the Hari Bhakti Sudhoya 13.2, there is the following verse. Prabhuji, if you can read this verse, my
Okay,
pronunciation
Prabhu.
may not be correct.
Apno phalam twadrisha darshanam hi tanoha phalam twadrisha gatra sangah jiva phalam twadrisha kirtanam hi sudurlabha bhagavata hi loke.
O devotee of the Lord, the purpose of the visual senses is fulfilled simply by seeing you, and to touch your body is the fulfillment of bodily touch. The tongue is meant for glorifying your qualities because in this world, a pure devotee of the Lord is very difficult to find. Originally, the senses of the living entity were awarded for this purpose, namely to engage them in the transcendental loving service of the Lord or that of his devotees. But the conditioned souls, illusioned by the material energy, became captivated by sense enjoyment. Therefore, the whole process of God consciousness is meant to rectify the conditional activities of the senses and to re-engage them in the direct service of the Lord. Lord Brahma thus engaged his senses in the Lord by recreating the conditioned living entities to act in the recreated universe. This material universe is thus created and annihilated by the will of the Lord. It is created to give the conditioned soul a chance to act to return home, back to Godhead. And servants like Brahmaji, Naradaji, Vyasyaji, and their company became busy with the same purpose of the Lord to reclaim the conditioned souls from the field of senses, sense gratification, and return them to the normal stage of engaging the Lord, engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. Instead of doing so, that is, converting the actions of the senses, the impersonalists began to make the conditioned souls senseless and the Lord also senseless. That is, improper treatment for the conditioned souls. The diseased condition of the senses may be treated by curing the defeat, but not uprooting the senses altogether. When there is some disease in the eyes may be cured to see properly. Plucking out the eyes is no treatment. Similarly, the whole material disease is based on the process of sense gratification, and liberation from the diseased condition is re-engagement of the senses to see the beauty of the Lord, hear his glories, and act on his account. Thus, Brahmaji created the universal activities again. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Puri. Thank you so much. Yeah, so the Lord instructed here the knowledge, the transcendental knowledge to Brahmaji, and Brahmaji, with rapt attention, he heard the instructions of the Lord. And after understanding and assimilating it, he expressed his gratitude with folded hands. And then he started, because here it is mentioned in the translation that Hari, who is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of devotees, Brahma with folded hands began to recreate the universe, full with living entities as it was previously. So he is the only the Bhokta, the enjoyer of all our sacrifices. That's why in Bhagavad Gita 5.29 it has been said, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam kyatumam shantim rachati. That this verse, Bhagavad Gita 5.29, it has been said by Srila Prabhupada that it is a peace formula. How? Because when we understand these three things, that the Lord is the only enjoyer of or beneficiary of all our activities, Bhoktaram, Yajna Tapasa. He is the enjoyer, the beneficiary of all our sacrifices. Bhoktaram, Yajna Tapasa, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the master or the controller or king of all the three worlds. And simultaneously, although he is the possessor of everything, but still he is Surid. He is having a very soft corner towards us because we are also his parts and parcels. Gyatva mam shantim rachati. If he understands this, then he will be peaceful and blissful. So this is the idea here, that when we keep ourselves in the center, then we get frustrated in life. But when we keep Krishna in our center, then what will happen? Automatically, things will fall in place and we will come out victorious, as Pandavas did. In the life of Pandavas also, there were so many turbulences. But instead of thinking, why me, why us, the Pandavas always protected the Dharma. That's why it has been said, Dharma Rakshati Rakshitaha. That those who protect the Dharma or those who fight for the Dharma, Dharma fights or Dharma protects them. Similarly, these Pandavas, who were also, every time Duryodhana was keeping him in the center, that I am the king, I should be the ruler of Hastinapur, not you, O Pandavas. But Yudhishthir Maharaj and Pandavas had full faith in Krishna, and they were ready to sacrifice this kingdom also, because they didn't wanted to they didn't wanted the war to happen. But since this Duryodhana was so envious, so arrogant, that he couldn't give them 5 villages also to survive. So at that time, Lord Krishna tried to pacify the people of Hastinapur, and he went there as a Shanti Dut, as a person from Pandavas to make a peace, uh, instead of going further for the war. But Duryodhana denied, and then the war took place. And we see the Pandavas, even though they were having so many difficulties in their life, but still at the end they came victorious. So similarly, when we keep Krishna in our center, then no matter how many challenges we face, but Lord Krishna will always be behind with us, and He will give us that energy or strength to fight all those obstacles. So similarly, Lord Brahma, he also got that strength, or Lord Krishna empowered him to create this universe with all the living entities as it was previously. So from here we can understand one more thing, that although we may think that Brahma he is having the quadra-core processor, or he is having the four mouths through which he chants the Vedas, and he is the topmost knowledgeable person, but still he also has to surrender to the Supreme Lord. He has to take the empowerment from the Supreme Lord to create something. So similarly, there is a lesson for us also, that we may be very highly qualified, we may be earning well, we may be having all everything, but still, if we don't obey, or if we don't bow down to the Supreme Lord, then that is not the right thing. Because bowing down to the Guru or our superiors and Lord Sri Krishna shows that our humility and our gratitude. So with humility and our gratitude only, we can attract the attention of Lord Sri Krishna and our spiritual masters. So this is the formula, or this is the lesson which we can learn from here, which Brahmaji himself explains. And like Amrish Maharaj also was standing with folded hands when Durvasa Muni tried to kill him. So similarly, this humility or this dainyata, it attract the Supreme Lord. It attracted the Supreme Lord, and at the end, he was also protected by the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Lord. So similarly, it is been said, Saralta hi Vaishnavata hai. Simplicity is Vaishnavism. So the more we get simple in our path of devotional service, the more we will get favored by the Supreme Lord and his devotees. So, as it is explained here, that sometimes the impersonal Mayavadis they think, oh, this is a jhadu, or this is a broom. I will not take it. No, no, no. It's dirty. Or sometimes we see a big car. So the impersonalist will say, no, no, no. This car is material thing. I don't want to accept this. Sometimes the material person will say, sometimes the uh, impersonal materialist, uh, impersonal transcendentalist will say, no, no, this big buildings, this is not right. So, but the devotees say that why not we can use that big buildings, big cars, or broom in the service of the Lord. With broom we will sweep the temple of the Lord. Shri Vigra Ara Dhananitya Nana Shringar Tan Mandira Marjanandau Yukta Se Bhaktam Shanyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam. In Guru Ashtakam we sing that our Gurudev is very happy to see us when we are engaged in the service of the Lord. No matter if we do the Shringar of the Supreme Lord in the altar, or no matter if we do the sweeping seva in the temple, that both are on the equal level in the eyes of our Guru, and he is happy, and it we also become happy. So this is also explained in the Guru Ashtakam. So similarly, whatever service we do, if it is done with love and devotion, the Lord happily accepts it. Otherwise, there is no use of it, because the envelope is not important. The content in the envelope is important. So similarly, our offerings are like the envelope, but the love with which we offer is the actual content which we are giving it to the Supreme Lord. But this world is full of dualities and illusion. Sometimes the impersonalists say we will not use these things. But the devotees use big, big buildings and go to the preaching places to awaken the souls into Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we use big, big cars so that we can bring the devotees or the deities uh, where we can go and preach. So the things are not bad, but the use of things will decide that whether it is good or bad. So similarly, we see that in previous days also, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, he used to take Rolls Royce to preach to the English people. So that was the influence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And also, the more important point is mentioned in the purport that if we got some disease in the eye, then we will not pluck out the eyes, but we will do the treatment. So similarly, we have also have to work or we have to do our karma, but we should not, we cannot sacrifice our karma or we cannot leave our karma. But when we do that karma with an intention to offer with the offering of the results to Supreme Lord, then that will become the akarma, and then we will not face any reactions for that. So that's why living work is not recommended, but working with the attitude of Krishna consciousness is recommended here, as Lord Brahma gets the knowledge from the Supreme Lord. So we'll move on to the next verse, verse number 40. Prajapatir Dharmapatir Ekada Niyaman Yaman Bhadram Prajanam Anvicha Atistat Swartha Kamyaya. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Should I read?
Yes, ma'am.
Hare Krishna. Thus, once upon a time, the forefather of living entities and the father of religiousness, Lord Brahma, situated himself in acts of regulative principles, desiring self-interest for the welfare of living entities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. One cannot be situated in an exalted position without having undertaken a regulative life of rules and regulations. An unrestricted life of sense gratification is animal life, and Lord Brahma, in order to teach all concerned within the jurisdiction of his generations, taught the same principles of sense control for executing higher duties. He desired the welfare of all as servants of God, and anyone desiring the welfare of the members of his family and generations must conduct a moral religious life. The highest life of moral principles is to become a devotee of the Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord has all the good qualities of the Lord. On the other hand, one who is not a devotee of the Lord, however qualified he may be in the mundane sense of the term, cannot be qualified with any good quality worthy of the name. The pure devotees of the Lord, like Brahma and persons in the chain of disciplic succession, do not do anything to instruct their subordinate without acting accordingly themselves. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much. So there is a nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam in the seventh canto, not seventh canto, in the fourth or fifth canto, where Maharaj says that all the good qualities of the devatas comes in the person, in that person who follows in the footsteps of devotional service or who takes up the devotional service. And to acquire those gunas or to acquire that uh, qualities, he doesn't have to go to any other source. But by performing your devotional service, Lord, he acquires all the divine qualities of the demigods. And on, and on the other hand, if somebody maybe he's well qualified, earning well and doing well, and takes care of the family and uh, does his duties properly. But he is not following in the footsteps of devotional service. Then he is asat, or he is not the truthful person because he is working on his own mental concoctions. So that's why at the end he will not be successful. So the success of our life remains in pleasing the Lord, in pleasing our spiritual master. Because Yasmin Tushta Jagat Tushta. Because if our Supreme Lord is pleased, then automatically the whole world will be pleased. If our Guru Maharaj or our spiritual master is pleased, then automatically the Lord will be pleased. That's why we sing in Guru Ashtakam also, Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado yasya prasad nagati kutopi dhyayam stuvam sasya yashasya sandhyam vande Guru Shri Charan Aravinda. So, so this is the verse uh, in the Guru Ashtakam also, where the importance of spiritual master is explained. So Brahmaji also situated himself in acts of regulative principles, desiring self-interest for the welfare of all living entities. So only when we come out of this bodily conception, when we come out of these three modes of material nature, Sattva Guna, Rajagun, and Tamas Guna, then we think that the whole world is my family. That's why this concept is known as Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The Prithvi or the earth is known as Vasudha, and those who are staying on this Prithvi or on Vasudha, they are our Kutumbakam. This idea we get it from Srimad Bhagavatam or through Brahmaji, where he acts or he works for the interest of all the other living entities. So this is the Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Generally, we think that my family or my in-laws family is my family. But no, when we take up the Krishna consciousness or when we follow in the footsteps of great acharyas, then we should also think that all these are not only the humans, but the animals are also the parts and parcels of the Lord. Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So this Jiva are Sanatan, they are eternal living entities, they are fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. So we should not be envious with them. So as Brahma is thinking for the welfare of all the living entities, so similarly, the same mood our spiritual masters are also carrying when they are coming on this earth. And they are going and knocking each and every one that please wake up in Krishna consciousness. Jeev jago, Gaura Chanda bole, Kota Nidra jao, Maya Pishachira bole. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also sings this wonderful bhajan where he says that Jeev jago, that oh sweet sleeping souls, wake up. Till when you will sleep in the lap of the Maya, the Pishachini, right? So it is very much required to wake up because everybody in the outside world are busy with selfie realization, but we devotees are engaged in self realization because people think that if I take selfie, if I take my photo, I will realize myself with that photo. But that is not the truth. But that is not the truth. The truth is, I am not this body. I am the super soul. I am the spiritual soul, and my duty is to serve the supreme soul, who is known as the Paramatma, and I am the Jivatma. And when that process, which helps us to connect with the supreme Lord and the spiritual master, that is known as the yoga. And when we do it with love and devotion, then that becomes the bhakti yoga. So here, Brahmaji is doing the activities for the pleasure of the Lord because he knows that if the Lord is satisfied, then I don't need to satisfy anybody. If by pouring the water in the roots of the tree will be satisfied, then what is the necessary to pour water on each and every leaf and flower of the tree? So similarly, we should always and s- satisfy, try to satisfy our spiritual master and Krishna. Because if they are pleased, then there is nobody else we have to go and please. So this is the highest principle to become the devotee of the Lord. Because the devotee of the Lord is very compassionate. As we can see from the pastimes of Jagai Madhai, that Nityanand Prabhu, he went to those drunkards who were very impious souls. But still, Nityanand Prabhu thought that if this impious or this patita, these fallen souls, if they take up the Krishna consciousness, if they take the holy name of the Lord, then what will happen? By seeing them, the other people will follow their footsteps and they will also become Krishna consciousness. So that's why it is been explained in Bhagavad Gita also that if the great people take up this process of devotional service, then what will happen? The common people who are following them, they will also will become Krishna consciousness. They will be also become Krishna conscious and they will follow in the footsteps. So that's why yad yad acharati shreshtas tatta devetaro jana sad yat sayat pramanam kurute lokas dhanuvartate. That whatever great man performs, common man will follow. And in this way, uh, this preaching will go on. So that's why Srila Prabhupada also initially went to Gandhiji and Indra Devi in those days to request them that you become Krishna conscious first so that the other people will also follow you. Because in today's world, people are having some role models. And if that role models take up the Krishna consciousness, then all the other mass of people will also take up the Krishna consciousness. So this is the mood. So that's why we have to also try to preach to the people of the higher class in society so that by seeing them, the other people will also follow. So we'll move on to the next verse, text number 41. Tam narada priyata rikta rikta danam anuratah शुश्रूषमाणः शीलेन प्रश्रयेण दमेन च. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Narad, the most dear of the inheritor, sons of Brahma, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior, meekness, and sense control.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. So here about Naradji, Sukdev Goswami tells that Narada is the most dear son of Brahma. Brahmaji have many sons, but Narada is the most dear because he is going here and there to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we can see his disciple from 5 years age to up to adults. He is going and he is making the disciples so that they can serve the Supreme Lord. So this is the wonderful quality of Naradji is mentioned here, and he obeys his father and always serves his father. So similarly, we should also serve our parents and our spiritual master very nicely because when we serve them, then the blessings from the heart will shower. We can see from the example of Vishwa Pitama also that when the Vishwa Pitama took up the sankalp to remain brahmacharya, took up the vow to remain what we say, uh, took up the vow not to enter into grahastha ashram for his father, then the devatas told Bhisham, that it is very hard decision, kathor decision this Bhishma Devrat has taken. So that's why from then onwards he is known as Bhishma. And the father was very happy to see this service from his dear son, and that's why he said that I'll give you a vardhan, I'll give you a benediction that you will die whenever you want. That is Ichha Mrityu benediction. Maharaj Shantanu gave it to Bhishmadev or Devrat. So in this way, we see many examples in our scriptures wherever the children or the sons have followed or obeyed their parents, they have become successful. And in this way, by his behavior and meekness and sense control, by his humble behavior and sense control, he is always, singing the glories, and he is traveling in heavens, earth, north, the all the planetary systems. He is traveling without any visa. So this is the beauty of Narad Muni. And wherever he goes not for his own entertainment. He goes for the preaching of the Krishna consciousness. So this is a wonderful thing which we can learn from Narad Muni. Let's move on to the next verse number 42. Mayam Vidishan Vishnor Mahamunihi Mahabhavato Rajan Pitaram Parayato Sayat. Translation was like this.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Narada very much pleased his father and desired to know all about the energies of Vishnu, the master of all energies. For Narada was the greatest of all sages and greatest of all devotees, O king. Purport. Lord Brahma, being the creator of all living beings in the universe, is originally the father of several well known sons like Daksha, uh, Chatusanas, and Narada. In three departments of human knowledge disseminated by the Vedas, namely fruitive work, Karma Kanda, transcendental knowledge, Jnana Kanda, and devotional service, Upasana Kanda, Devarshi Narada inherited from his father Brahma devotional service, whereas Daksha inherited from his father fruitive work, and Sanaka, Sanatana, etc. inherited from their father information about Jnana Kanda or transcendental knowledge. But out of them all, Narada is described here as the most beloved son of Brahma because of good behavior, obedience, meekness, and readiness to render service unto Father. And Narada is a famous as the greatest of all sages because of his being the greatest of all devotees. Narada is the spiritual master of many famous devotees of the Lord. He is the spiritual master of Prahlada, Dhruva, and Vyasa, down to the forest animal hunter Kirata. His only business is to turn everyone to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, all these features of Narada make him the dearmost son of his father, and all this is due to Narada's being a first class devotee of the Lord. The devotees are always anxious to know more and more about Supreme Lord, the Master of all energies, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10.9. Machitta Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantas Chamam Nityam Tusyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. The Supreme Lord is unlimited and his energies are also unlimited. No one knows them completely. Brahmaji, being the greatest living entity within this universe and being directly instructed by the Lord, must know more than anyone within this universe. Although such knowledge may not be complete. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to ask about the unlimited Lord from the spiritual master in the disciplic succession of Brahma, which descends from Narada to Vyasa, from Vyasa to Sukadeva, and so on. Jai, Jai, Jai Shri Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So here further the qualities of Narad Muni are explained, because why he is so much dear to everybody, because he is always ready to take up the service to please his father. He could have also taken the role of Grahastha, but he became a brahmachari and he followed the celibacy, and he travels all over just to preach about Krishna And in this way, please both his Guru, Father, and Lord Sri Krishna. And since there are, as mentioned in the purport also by Srila Prabhupada, that there are Karma Kand, Gyan Kand, and Upasana Kand. But this Kand talks about the devotional service where we do Upasana, or where we do the worship of the Supreme Lord. So, although Karma Kand is also important, Jnana Kand is also important, but the topmost of all of them is the Upasana Kand, where we establish a relation with the Lord, and in that way we try to serve Him. So this is more important. Definitely, Lord Brahma's other sons like Daksha Prajapati, the Chatush Kumar, and others, they are also working for for the humanity in their own aspects. But Narada Muni gives the easy path of devotional service to all the people in general. And in this way, we can see that from Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj to Vyasdev, and so many others, he has instructed them in the path of devotional service. Because Bhaktya Tushtati Kevalam Nacha Gunnar, the devotional service only attracts the Lord. If somebody has strength, he can attract. If somebody is weak, then he can be attracted by strength. If somebody is poor, he can be attracted by money. If somebody has something lacking, then he can be attracted by talent or skills. But the Supreme Lord is the possessor of all these good qualities and all. But Supreme Lord, Lord Sri Krishna, he don't have his own bhakti, devotional service. So that's why he also comes in the mode of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to taste that bhakti. Because the bhakti is is in the hands of, in the hearts of his pure devotees. And through the pure devotees only, through our spiritual master only, we get that reaper of devotional service, Bhakti Lata Beach. Why we say it as Bhakti Lata Beach? Because it always requires the support. The Bhakti Lata always requires the support to grow further. So similarly, this Bhakti Lata beat inside our heart also requires the support of hearing and chanting. So when we hear about the Lord, when we chant about the Lord, then what happens? It fructifies, and it rises further, it grows further. And at the end, what happens when we realized ourselves that I am the Jivera Swarupa Krishna Nityadas, that I am the servant of the servant of all the living entities, then with that humility and with that bhakti to serve the Lord and to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service, if we do these activities, then automatically we can attract the all attractive, that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why Lord Krishna is known as Madan Mohan, who attracts the Cupid also. But Srimati Radharani, her name is Madan Mohan Mohini, because she attracts Krishna also. So similarly, we can also attract Krishna with not our material qualifications and qualities. But when we take up the process of devotional service, then with that bhakti, we can bind Lord Sri Krishna. As Narada did, as Dhruva did, as Prahlad Maharaj did, as Ajamil did. So through the bhakti only, the Lord, we can see in Damodar Leela also, that Yashoda was trying to bind Krishna with the ropes. And at the end, she went successful also. She tied Krishna with ropes to a wooden grinding mortar. But above that, she tied Krishna with the love of devotion. So similarly, we should also have a sambandha or a relation with the Supreme Lord and our spiritual master. On the basis of that, we can bind them with our hearts. And in that way, we can always be protected. And protection means not only the bodily protection, but Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Name Bhaktya Pranashyati, that he will protect us from all the obstacles in devotional service, and will give us that strength so that we can go back home, back to Godhead in this very life. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By chanting these holy names and by hearing about Krishna in the association of like-minded devotees, what happens? Matchitta Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayantasya Mam Nityam Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. That the devotees of the Lord, they become satisfied and they become happy by always conversing about the Lord's activities, name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Because we see in today's world the name, fame, and qualities or pastimes of the people, they are reducing day by day. But the name, form, qualities, and pastimes are increasing day by day of the Lord. Because today, if we hear this pastime, we get this realization. Tomorrow, we again hear the same pastime, we get different realization. So in this way, we will realize and we will be highly enlightened when we take up this process of devotional service. And we see it as each and every year is coming and going, coming and going. So this the cycle is going on and on. So these Yamdutas are always knocking the door of the people who are grossly materialistic. And similarly, this Vishnu Dutas are also knocking the door of the devotees that please be prepared so that we can take you back home, back to Godhead. So the choice is ours. Either we should take up the devotional service or we should take up the process of sense gratification. But if we take the process of service unto the Supreme Lord, the bhakti unto the Supreme Lord and our spiritual master, then that will free us from the bondage of birth, old age, disease, and death. So, this is what we can learn and understand from this today's verses. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. So, thank you very much. If you have any questions or comments, you can please come forward and add or ask. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, many thanks. Meaning I feel a bit kind of embarrassed whenever I call you up at the last moment. So, one point of appreciation specifically for you is there have been times wherein certain people have not been able to, uh, meaning agree to, meaning give the class as per the schedule, and you always have helped me at the very last moment, because of which I feel sorry that I don't give you sufficient time to prepare for the lecture, but still you have always done the seva. Many thanks, and again sorry for giving you a last minute request. Hare Krishna. As always, the class was wonderful. Many thanks for all your help. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Anybody has any question?
Thank you, Prabhu.
No question, Prabhu. Have a very wonderful class. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one small question. In one of the purport, it was saying that when Brahmaji was recreating as it was existing earlier. So just confused with that.
Yes, Prabhuji. Very nice question. Yeah, so what happens, like many times we say that these demigods are also immortal, but they have a certain span of life, duration of life. For example, this yeah. For example, this one day of Swargaloka is equals to 6 months here. So that's the difference. See in the Swargaloka and Devalokas. So they have a huge span of life, and after 100 years also, uh, after annihilation takes place, and again there are annihilations happening. So after the annihilation, what happens? Everything goes in the body of Mahavishnu. And after that, after some time, when the creation again takes place, everything comes into the place. And after this creation is done, the secondary creation is done by Brahma. And that's why he again recreates, where Lord Krishna again gives him the transcendental knowledge, and then again he creates. So in this way, it has been mentioned here that he again creates in the same way that he has created before. So this is my understanding. Prabhu, still Subal Prabhuji can add for other devotees also. Hare Krishna.
Now, Prabhu, you mentioned most of the point. There are basically 4 times the destruction happens. This is mentioned in the 12th chapter of Bhagavatam. So one destruction happened, which is the end of one day of Brahma. And during the night of the Brahma, the whole Prakriti is in an unmanifest state, the universe. Then at the end of one Manvantar also, right, Prabhu? And I think, yeah, at the end of one Manvantar also. And at the end of Brahma's life, the third destruction happened. And the fourth destruction, which is not related to Prakriti as such, but it is related to the Atma giving up the subtle body. That is the fourth destruction. So when the recreation is being talked about, as Prabhuji rightly said, the recreation is as it was before, and it is recreated after the partial dissolution.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Any other question, or we can, Prabhu? Prabhu is actually working today for everybody's knowledge. So thank you, Prabhu. Despite your working day, you are helping us understand Bhagavatam. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
So
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
let's chant Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha for everyone. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki jai. Thank you. Thank you so much, Keshava Bharati Prabhu. Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.